Is there a connection between autism and queerness? There is a known correlation between LGBT+ identities and those on the Asperger's autism spectrum. While most still seem to indicate they are practicing heterosexuals, ASD people are more likely to identify as asexual, bisexual, or homosexual than a random sample of non-ASD people. One survey showed a 2x likelihood of asexuality and a 3.5x likelihood of bisexual identity. The correlation seems even more pronounced in ASD females than males. There are a number of surveys on this, and the trend varies, but the existence of a correlation seems pretty reliable. https://www.cam.ac.uk/research/news/autistic individuals are more likely to be LGBTQ. Edit. Acknowledging the currently accepted terminology is autism spectrum, not Asperger's. More research is needed in this regard. One theory is that people who are already different from the norm in one way are more open to the idea of realizing they are different in other ways. Which is to say, if you already had to admit that you're gay, admitting that you're autistic isn't that much more of a stretch. You will want to read here. https://www.lgbtqia.org/wpcontent/uploads/2020/08/neurodiversity and gender diverse youth on a fee. R. Ming Approach to Care 2020.pdf. The two articles this document references to answer the question you ask can be accessed here with credentials. https://articles/abs/p/s2050050115000049 via %3 DieHub and https://onlinelibrary.wiley.com/doi/10.1002/AUR.1892. There is a link between being on social media a lot and autism, as well as a link between being on social media a lot and queerness. In both cases, because social media is often a safer space to be and express themselves than real life. Lots of autistic people online plus lots of queer people online equals overrepresentation of queer autistic people online. Neurodiverse people already tend to live somewhere outside of the established norms of their society, just with the way they take in and process information, whether they work hard to fit in or accept their otherness and go with it. The fact remains that the social roadmap the majority seem to be born with is obscured for them, and they have to put in extra work to sort out who they are and how they fit into the world. If it happens that their sexual orientation is also outside the majority, they're likely to embrace that as yet another differentiation of who they are, rather than a neurotypical person who may feel threatened by diverging from the norm and want to deny it in themselves. This is the take I've arrived at through my own personal experience in the matter. At least, I felt like an alien my entire life, and realizing I'm gay was just another aspect of the puzzle. Correlation does not equal causation. That being said, there is a correlation. You have probably heard the term neurodivergent at least once or twice. It's a blanket term used to describe people with certain mental conditions, autism, ADHD, etc. These kinds of people have a hard time fitting into modern social structures, and tend to think about things a lot differently from your average person. With that in mind, you can kinda see how these people would also come around to the idea that they might be interested in more things sexually a lot earlier than other people, and are more willing to explore that side of themselves. I'm a cishet autistic person. So take my hypotheses with a grain of salt. From my perspective, you can look at it in at least two ways. 1. Neurodivergent people are more willing to separate themselves from social conventions, which makes them more willing to embrace queerness too. Some neurodivergent people who spend a lot of time online are attracted to the sense of belonging that the LGBTQ+ community offers, and it gives them a flexible vocabulary for understanding their experiences that mainstream culture does not really offer. I think that sexuality is at least partly socially manufactured. Sexual identity, sexual orientation categories are definitely socially constructed, and so I don't think that there's a significant biological link or anything. Yes, there is a big overlap between the autistic and queer community. Follow-up question. Same as OP's question, but with autism and transgender identity. I remember years back reading some long forum post which at the time I thought was nonsense. It was about the speed running community having a high number of runners with autism spectrum disorders as well as a high amount of LGBTQ+ people in the community. There were some really good points and people supporting the post actually ran numbers and had statistics and all that. My personal opinion is yes, there is a correlation. But that's based on my life experiences, so I already have a major confirmation bias. My neurodivergence has made social conventions very confusing. So much seems pointless, as does throwing limits and quantifiers on something like attraction. I like who I like. I don't like who I don't. Plumbing has never played a role in that. I read a thing somewhere about how neurodivergent brains are closer to center when it comes to gender identity. Like women with autism have brains that are closer to an NT man's brain and vice versa with autistic men, which would also lead to different sexual orientations. Let me see if I can find it. Edit. Okay, here's an abstract. I think you need a subscription to read the whole thing. https://pubmed.ncb nlm.nih.gov/2974/1976/ Depends on how many are self-diagnosed. Recall a giant study with I believe 10,000 people. It showed that people that were non-binary were 7x more likely to be autistic. Yes, there is actually a known correlation. I think it's related to our A. Not understanding social norms, and B. Our enjoyment of categorizing things. Seeing as queerness has a lot of social pressures surrounding it, and autistic people don't necessarily pick up on the same unwritten social rules as neurotypical people, it makes sense to me that the number of out autistic people would be higher. In recent times, autism spectrum disorders have become easier to detect and diagnose. In recent times, LGBTQ+ people have found it more possible to live openly about their identities. Thus, nowadays, you're going to see a lot more of both. Even though being autistic doesn't have anything to do with being queer. Correlation is not causation. A lot of people self-diagnose either because they have an incorrect view of what ASD is or because the American health system is just too expensive. A lot of people who say they're autistic are self-diagnosis and use it as an excuse to be awkward. Yes. In fact, often many screening questions in autism diagnoses for adults include questions about gender identity and gender dysphoria.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.